congratulations. My goodness, this is just exquisite, beautifully shot, everything. It's just, I love the story. And I don't really, honestly, didn't really know a lot about Freud and Jung. Yeah. Was it something that was in the back of your mind the whole time you had to make a movie about these guys?
It wasn't until I read Christopher Hampton's play, The Talking Cure, which the movie is based on, that I sort of in retrospect was saying, I think I've always wanted to make a movie at least about Freud and the birth of psychoanalysis and Europe at the turn of the century, of the 20th century, which is just before the First World War. Such a fascinating era, such rich material, for a film. But to say I want to do a movie about Freud isn't saying anything, because he had a very long life full of many, many people and events, and that's not a structure. No, but when I read the play, I thought, here is a beautiful structure, and an unexpected one, because though of course I knew about Freud, I knew less about Jung, but I had no idea about the existence of Sabine Spielrein. So it's a third character in this triangle, which I call an intellectual ménage à trois. There was. So I sort of unleashed that interest, which Freud would have said was unconsciously there all the time, I'm sure.
Yeah. Let's talk about the casting, because of course you're almost your brothers now, you and Viggo Mortensen. My God, you guys don't do anything without each other anymore, really. I mean, he's amazing, Freud.
Yeah.
Wow. How did you know he's going to be able to pull this one off?
Well, casting, as I say, have often said, is a black art. It's very misunderstood, and it's a part of directing that's very important, but it's kind of invisible. Most people don't, when they think of directing, they don't even think about casting. But if you miscast a movie, you've sort of killed yourself right before you even start shooting for the film. And yet there are no rules. There's nothing to guide you but your own instinct and your own intuition about what an actor can do with a particular role in a particular context. And of course you can do all the research you want. You can watch all the movies that person has been in. You can watch interviews on YouTube, which has become a very interesting part of casting, because you then see an actor trying at least to be himself or herself, and you get a sense of what kind of person that person might be if you've not met them. But having said all that, you still don't know what will happen when you have them on the set. I mean, when you think of, we talk about chemistry, that you say those two people, they're great actors, but they have no chemistry together. Well, how does a director know they're going to have chemistry? You don't, I think of, let's say, Keira Knightley and Michael Fassbender in this movie, a very intense love affair. How do I know they'll have chemistry? When I haven't seen them in a room together, they don't know each other, they've never done a movie together, I won't see them together until they're on the set, and I'm directing them. So it's kind of perilous. And with Viggo, what I was thinking was, we know, the old Freud, that's the Freud that everybody thinks they know. He was in his 80s, he had cancer, he was very frail and emaciated. But the Freud in this movie is the age of 50, and he's at the height of his powers, and he's very, as he was described in the era, handsome, masculine, charismatic, seductive, witty, and you sort of think, okay, the normal kind of cliches about casting Freud will not work to deliver that kind of Freud. We want the real Freud, and that's when I started to think, well, Viggo, Viggo could do that.
He sure did. And he endured a lot of cigars, Mr. Cronenberg.
Yes. There's only one scene in the movie where he's not smoking a cigar, and of course this is all the product of our fabulous research, which Viggo does intensely as well. I mean, we exchange a lot of emails with photographs of cigars. I think Freud's cigars were this kind, but you can't get them anymore, but this is a strange, Dominican cigar that's the same shape. That's Viggo's research. He's very intense about it. But Freud smoked 22 cigars a day, every single day of his life, and that's why he got cancer of the jaw.
Unbelievable. Okay, what impressed you about Fassbender? Because my goodness, he's amazing as you. And he just wins the best actor at Venice for Shame. My God, you tapped into a good one there.
Yeah, well, Michael, I think in the industry, everybody knew he was an up-and-coming star. He had done Hunger with Steve McQueen, who also did Shame with him. He'd done Fish Tank. People could see, that Michael was incredibly talented, handsome, rugged but really also a fine actor. And so I was lucky to get him when I did. You know, I mean, I think before X-Men, which he did after us, because I mean, in Shame, which he won Best Actor at the Venice Film Festival, he plays a contemporary character of his age and so on. In our movie, he plays someone totally unlike himself. You know, he plays a Swiss-German psychologist, very restrained, very formal. It's a beautifully modulated, incredibly subtle performance. You know, I mean, not as flashy perhaps as what he did in Shame, which I haven't seen, but you understand what the story is. But I think of an incredibly fine performance.
Yeah, and Keira Knightley, wow, the opening scene with her blew me away. Like, it was painful for me to watch her. It really was.
Yeah.
She was brilliant.
Yeah. Yes, Keira and I, having to deliver the understanding of what this disease of the era called hysteria was. That's where the word hysterical comes from and so on. It was considered a disease of women. The word hysteria means uterus in Greek. So they thought it was a particular disease of women, and it's described in great detail. Carl Jung wrote a really detailed description of Sabina's symptoms. And we also could see footage of women suffering from hysteria, and it's almost unwatchable, the way they deform their bodies and the obvious pain that they're suffering, trying to speak, and they're trying to say things that they feel they can't say. They're horrible, unthinkable things. And so it took a little while for Keira and me to find the right level for her to do that. But once she did it, once we decided how far to go, and really we were being quite restrained compared with what you really would see with a patient of that kind. She just did it. I mean, she's a phenomenal actress. I think incredibly underrated. She was great, and not just in those sort of obvious scenes at the beginning, but later when her character shifts and transforms and morphs. It's a beautiful performance.
Amazing. Did you feel like you needed psychoanalysis after the film was done?
Not me. I've never needed. No, but I think we have a lot of fun making the movie. That's the thing. I mean, it's something that people don't realize, but the element of play. There's that childlike element of play that is involved. After all, you're dressing up in funny clothes and putting on a mustache and pretending to be people you aren't. I mean, that is like a kid, So as long as you keep that in that tone on the set, no matter how hard and heavy the material is that you're working with, it can still be a lot of childlike fun, and that's what we had. Okay,
very quickly, Cosmopolis. Have you ever worked with the likes of Robert Pattinson before, where girls are like trying to, that must have been insane.
Well, Viggo's a more mature actor, but he also has his female fans, I've got to say, and I worked with Ralph Fiennes. I've worked with some pretty hot actors, frankly, and even Jeremy Irons at his time. So, but Rob, I mean, yes, there was a little more security required with Rob Pattinson, but frankly, he's very sweet, and he signs the autographs, and the girls are happy, and it wasn't so intense. I have to say, it wasn't a problem. It was never a problem.
Good stuff. I can't wait to talk to you about Cosmopolis, but you're in.
That'll be next year.
Next year for sure. We'll see you again.